Stories inform us to what is possible. Stories influence us to what is needed. And stories inspire us to what could be. Stories happen when people live their life to the fullest. These are the Storytellers. Hi, Darren here. As you can see, I'm dressed kind of differently today because I'm going to my Pilates class. On a really great idea, I asked my instructor coach, would she grant me an interview, because I really like people that are able to help people continue to work, continue to play, all in their own steam. About 2.5 years ago, I had an MRI and I was told I was going to need back surgery. I was constantly grunting and groaning, getting up from chairs, having to grab onto furniture to get up from sitting on the floor. It was terrible. One day I was at my barber shop, and when I got out of the chair, I made one of those grunts and groans, and Angela, my barber, she said, "You need to go see Julie Yant." And I said, "Who's Julie Yant?" She said, "I go to see Julie. She's a Pilates instructor. When I leave her class, I actually feel taller, Darren. I think she could really help you." So I called and I had my first session and I felt really different. And then after about the third and fourth session, I was actually feeling pain-free. And now 2 years later, and no surgery, thanks to Julie, I'm able to actually walk around and not sound like I'm 105 years old. And I have Julie Yant to thank for that, because of her Pilates coaching and in the way she keeps me going to go to work and to play in all of my own steam. So I'd like to introduce you to Julie Yant, my Pilates instructor and coach. Thank you for having this interview. I know you are so busy. You do homeschooling. You have a family business that it's Pest Inc. They're Middle Tennessee, one of the top-rated pest and control companies. And she's a Pilates coach and instructor. Tell me, Julie, when did you get into Pilates?
Well, Darren, I first got into Pilates when my oldest son, who's now 14, was about 18 months old. And we were thinking about having a second child. And I wasn't quite pleased with how my body was from delivering the first child, and I felt like I needed to get in better shape. And I knew that the Pilates world dealt with the core, and so being pregnant, all of those muscles had been wrecked from the core down to the pelvic floor, so I thought this might be a good way to go. So I Googled for Pilates studios in Nashville, and the first one that I went to was a perfect match for me, and I started going every week and never stopped. So
that was what, 13 years ago?
Yes, 13 years ago.
But now you're a coach and an instructor. How did that come about?
Well, I wasn't really sure. I knew that I had a passion for Pilates, and I honestly wasn't sure if I would be a good teacher or not. I had never been a teacher per se, been a mother, so obviously, you do a lot of teaching in that, own another small business as you mentioned, so had some leadership skills involved with running a business, so I thought, well, can I combine my passion for Pilates with having my own studio? I don't know. So I thought, well, I'll never know unless I try. So a few years ago, I sat down with my husband and kind of laid out a plan for becoming an instructor, and he was completely on board with it. He knows how much I love Pilates, and so he supported me in taking all the teacher training and becoming an instructor.
Is there a recertification? Now, you got certified, but
Yes.
Is there a recertification program?
Yes, so there's both. So what happens is there's several different schools that offer comprehensive Pilates training. And so it's not just mat work like you might see at the local gym. People that provide that may or may not be certified. We are trained on using all the equipment that's here in the studio. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I had to take 10 courses, and I did that through private instruction with a master instructor from Balanced Body. And she taught me all the information that I needed to know from all the courses, from anatomy through mat, reformer, chair, ladder barrel, all of those courses we went through one-on-one, every single exercise, and that took quite a bit of time, as you can imagine, well over a year. And then I had to have, in addition to that, 450 teaching hours. So I had to teach people like you for 450 hours. And so that was very time consuming as well, but it was well worth it because it laid a good foundation for me to be able to work with people like you every day now. So from that really is all that's needed in order to, operate as a certified instructor. But we do have a governing body called the Pilates Method Alliance, and so I wanted to additionally be a member of that. They sort of govern over all of the schools that are that put out certified Pilates teachers, and so I took the test with them in order to become a Pilates Method Alliance certified teacher. They've recently changed it to National Pilates Certification Program, so it's called a little bit different. I'm having to get used to that terminology, but we do have to recertify every 2 years. We have continuing education, just like as a lawyer or a real estate agent. So we do 16 hours every 2 years of additional training to make sure that we stay, up to date on our realm of knowledge.
I know when I first started, I had no idea about Pilates. I'd done yoga before.
Correct.
And I want to ask you about yoga in a minute, but I want to bring out this one point. You have a phenomenal knowledge about anatomy and how it works in the very specific muscle groups in their proper names. But you also had this other thing. You were able to use metaphoric language and give analogies. And I'll never forget the first time you said to me, I want you to lay back down as if you were laying a pearl necklace, one pearl at a time. Think of those vertebrae as a pearl, and then the next one. And that just gave me a visual. Did you get that from the certification program, or was that something that you thought up yourself?
Yes, so it's a combination of both. Obviously, I've observed other teachers, and that was part of my training as well. I didn't mention that, but I had the classroom training, I did the teaching hours on bodies, and then I also had to observe other instructors as well. So I learned some of that from other instructors. No need to reinvent the wheel. If they had something good, then people are happy to share that kind of knowledge. And that's a part of what we're taught, is what cues need to be used with different people. And so some people are visual learners, as you know, and so you have to really tap into that. And so over time, I have developed some of my own, and hopefully when I've used some of those in front of other instructors, that's helped them as well. Because
they stole from you?
Right, we're all in this together, just trying to help bodies move better. So,
yoga. Have you ever done yoga?
I have done yoga to a small extent, yes.
What's the difference?
I think there's a lot of differences. A lot of people equate it as being the same modality, but it's completely different in my opinion. I can see why some people might think it's similar, because a lot of people think about Pilates involving stretching, which it does. Yoga, I think, is more of a relaxing type of modality, or at least it is for me. So when I take a yoga class, usually it's when I'm on vacation and I want to kind of unplug.
Get away from Pilates.
Well, yes, I just want to unplug and just kind of unwind. It's a lot slower in my opinion, but I don't really. I don't know the background of yoga, so I can only really speak to Pilates, but I just think that they're completely different, especially what I do here in my studio, because we incorporate all the equipment. And so there's just so many more things that we can do. I feel like I have a lot more anatomy training than I would if I had a yoga certification, but again, I don't know what is involved with that.
So what's the history of Pilates?
Yeah. So Pilates was created by a gentleman by the name of Joe Pilates. He was born in the late 1800s over in Europe, and he was actually an inventor. And so he was someone that was interested in movement. He was interested in keeping well physically and mentally, and so he wanted to tie those things together. And he also incorporated his mind for invention. And so he spent time in Germany, in England, and then back to Germany before he came to the U.S. And once he came to the U.S., he set up in New York City, and he really started to bring to life a lot of his inventions and use those in order to help people move better. He used them to help people in that had been in the military that were recovering from the war, and he really felt that he could help people live optimally through the mind-body connection, through the exercises that he invented, and ultimately through the equipment that he used for that.
Mind-body connection. Because you do use a lot of phraseology with me in referring to that. And in fact, I am so not as uncoordinated, thanks to you, but I live in my head more than I do in my body, but you've made that connection for me, thank God. I had read an article, and it was about Joe Pilates was renowned for helping professional dancers that had gotten hurt.
Correct.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, so the connection for that was when he moved to New York City, he set up in the same building, his apartment was in the same building that the New York City Ballet was in. And so he ended up meeting a lot of dancers, and a lot of dancers, are very hard on their bodies and they have a lot of injuries. And so he was able to work with them and help them develop rehab protocols so that they could be better dancers and learn, dancers have a lot of flexibility. And so they have to learn how to kind of rein that in and not hyperextend and create injury. And so he helped with that as well as many other people, but he had a huge connection to the dance world.
Him being, and you mentioned that he was in England, I wonder if he had ever met Martha Graham.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't recall.
Martha Graham is the lady that did the choreography for Cats. A phenomenal dancer in and of herself.
Yes, I feel like there may be a connection from my readings, but I can't recall right offhand.
That would have been neat to know about that. So, would you recommend, now you mentioned that he worked with military people that had been hurt. Is there any program right now that's specifically Pilates for military people that are being rehabbed? Do you know?
That's a good question. I'm not aware of one, but I'm sure that there is. I do read, different articles in industry magazines of people that, work with different types of clients. So I don't know if there's a specific program in place, but that's something certainly to be explored.
How would, I know that you're booked quite solid right now, but if someone were wanting you to come to their organization or club to talk to them about Pilates or possibly institute a class, how would they get in touch with you?
They can reach me via email, julieyant@gmail.com, pretty simple. So they could also call me, 615-642-4986. So I usually operate with email or phone. They can find me on Facebook as well, just under my name, and send me a message on Facebook.
What you've done for me is pretty profound. I've got to ask this. Has anyone come in worse shape than me and left in better shape?
Well, I don't know, Darren. You have been a unique client for sure, but no, everybody has their challenges. And if anybody walks in here with a healthy body, then I would be completely shocked, because we all have something that we're dealing with, whether we're young or old. I've had clients in their teens that are athletes, and they have some imbalances due to repetition from sports, and so we have to work on correcting some of those imbalances. And then, as you mentioned, I have my active agers, I like to say.
My group.
Exactly. And so I've had folks in their late 70s that come to see me, and they really just want to keep moving. And I love that, because I just think that is so important for us all, because we have a tendency to become complacent with our health, and we don't realize that we can really take an active role in moving better and feeling better through movement.
That is, who's your youngest and who's your oldest?
Okay, so probably if my children will indulge me, then that's really nice. And they're now 12, almost 12 and 14. And even though probably 5 years ago, they would get on the reformer for me. And so that's fun. But as far as actual clients, usually the teens are about the earliest that I've seen folks.
Athletes that...
Typically, it's athletes, or there's teens with scoliosis, with back issues that they have been diagnosed with at a young age, and they need to learn how to be stronger and how to strengthen the core, how to stretch, things like that, in order to not have pain. So, again, we have things that start early in age, whether it's through work we're doing through sports, or whether it's something we've been diagnosed with. And then again, I have folks that have come to see me into their late 70s, and I love working with those people because they just, like I said, want to keep moving, they want to have a better quality of life, and I really appreciate that.
I want to share this with the audience. After a class, I will go 4 days totally pain-free. Now, Julie has taught me some exercises to do at home, but I am lazy. And sometimes I do it and I'll go a whole week without any pain, but most of the time I don't. So about the 4th day that night, I start feeling it, and then I'm starting to look forward. Okay, because she's also a coach. She will make me go through the moves. She'll make me do it. Whereas if I'm home by myself, no one's there to really do it. What would you want to use me as a demonstrator first, so that those that might want to think about just starting, what would you promote as a movement that you could talk me through for the audience?
Oh, wow. Okay, well, we can go through some different things. I do want to say, though, that I think the key for you is you've been consistent. And that's the most important thing, no matter what movement you choose to do. So of course I'm very happy if people want to do Pilates, but the most important thing is to be consistent, and that's been a key factor for you, is that you are consistent in coming every week. And again, like you mentioned, if you do some of your homework type exercises that I don't make you do, but I suggest that you could do them, then you can go pain-free all week. And I appreciate that you've made that connection. And I really, as a teacher, when I see that light bulb go on for students, it just really makes my day.
I've got to say this, the people I work with, I'm a staff nurse. I actually do patient care. I'm not in an office behind a desk dreaming up stuff for staff to do. I actually do the work of a nurse, and about 3 months into taking you, people that I work with started noticing, you're not in pain, dear. You're actually doing some movement that you didn't used to be able to do. What's going on? And that's when I told them that I had started taking Pilates. I didn't know how long I was going to be able to do it, but the profound results, I had to keep on going. It's 2.5 years, and every time she goes on vacation, it really, really kills me.
I guess we'll just have to start Skyping. You have to get into technology just a little bit more,
Well, yeah. Don't hold your breath with me on technology. What would you like me to do? Demonstrate. I have a rotator cuff. It's not a complete tear, but it is somewhat, and I told Julie about it. Watch what she did for me, and it made the pain go away, and I was able to actually start to sleep on my shoulder. You want to?
Yes. All right, so this is another, let me change your spring up just a little bit, or we might cause more harm than good. All right, so we're going to slide the palm facing up into the strap. There you go. So you're going to keep the upper part of the arm kissed into the body, and we're going to press out. So the rotator cuffs, particularly for men, but even for women as well, are usually quite weak. And so this is an exercise that we do quite often in order to strengthen the external, and then we'll also do the internal rotator cuff sets of muscles. Good. Nice. All right, let's switch hands. We'll go into that short strap for the left hand, and we're going to do the internal set on this left side. Again, keeping that upper part of the arm kissed in tight to the body, like there's a sheet of paper there and you don't want it to fall. And
see what I talk about, the metaphor, sheet of paper between the body and the...
So you're going to press it in. Press it in. So it's a tiny little movement, but we're going to start feeling the burn. The rotator cuff, most of the exercises that we do in Pilates is low reps. So if we have our mind into the muscle, we have proper form, we don't have to do that many reps to achieve results. Rotator cuff's a little bit different. It likes a really light weight, but more reps. So it's one that we usually do more reps on than some of the others. All right. Okay, so now we moved over to the Cadillac. We're going to do some roll downs. So again, I'd like for you to start from super tall, and then I want you to tuck the pelvis. You're rounding back one vertebra at a time. So if you think about your spine being a strand of pearls, and you're laying one vertebra down at a time, head hits the mat. Now that we're at the bottom, we're going to bring the arms in for a count of 3. Now we're going to keep the arms long. Come up on an exhale. Reach it long. Do you remember when we first started?
When I first did this, I think I can reenact this.
Oh dear.
It was like this, and everything's cool, and then those are the noises I used to make.
Yes.
Anyhow,
yes, we
after 2.5 years,
he can just pop right up because you have made some stronger abdominals to help you curl up. You realize that there's a connection between the front of the body and the back of the body. Good. Same thing. Bring the arms in for a count of 3.
and these springs are not tractor trailer. They're just barely there.
Just gives you a little proprioception to help you lift up. Good. So, because the class size is so small, I am able to still give a pretty individualized approach to each student. So I don't pigeonhole my classes. If I had a larger studio, I might be able to, might have to do that. But since I can only see 4 at a time, everybody gets an individual attention through each class. And so if someone has, say if Darren was not in a private session, he came to a class, I would be able to work it where we did what he was capable of doing, but then we could modify it to where someone that was more advanced could have more of a challenging class. So there's modifications for everything, which I love. So one of the other things about Pilates, after I had my second child, I actually started having a lot of knee issues myself and was diagnosed with osteoarthritis in my early 30s, which is pretty early to be diagnosed with that. And so Pilates helped me to be able to manage my pain. I don't have trouble walking like I was having when I first got diagnosed. I would wake up each morning swollen and in pain, and so I had to figure out what was going on with my body and what was out of alignment and what needed to be strengthened. And so I learned all of those tools, and so it was one of the other things that got me hooked on this. Helped me have my babies and helped me to be able to feel strong in my own body with my own health issues.
Can you give us an advanced, difficult pose the way it's supposed to be done?
Sure, I can do that. Be glad to do that. Let me set up the Cadillac. And then I can do some stretching while I'm here. I can do some hanging. And some stretching.
And Darren does not do that one.
Darren does not do that one yet.
Yet. We're going to wrap it up now. Julie, is there anything that you would like? I do have something to say after Julie, but what would you like to say to the audience about Pilates?
Well, like I said earlier, I think consistency is the most important thing. So I just like to see people move. And if you do it through Pilates, that makes me even happier because I feel like it's a discipline from young to old, whether or not you have an injury or whether you have a chronic issue. As I mentioned earlier, everybody can do Pilates. There's modifications for each exercise, and I think that you'll feel stronger, leaner, muscles feel longer, and it just makes you feel better all the way around.
Thank you so much for your time. I would like to add this last thing. 2.5 years ago, they wanted to do surgery. They wanted to do what I'm going to metaphorically call a rotor-rooter up my spinal cord because my cord was getting compressed by my vertebrae. I haven't had surgery, and yet I am more limber now than ever. As far as what you do for people, people have careers, they have jobs, they have professions. What Julie does is a vocation, it's a calling. She has helped me, and I know countless others, to continue to work, play, all in their own steam. This is quite a story to tell. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Darren.